Hey, food friends, and welcome to the Food Founders Podcast. Whether you're looking to get on your very first store shelf or you're looking to grow your national or even international food brand, this podcast is going to teach you what it really takes to launch, grow, and scale a packaged food brand. Hear the food founder journeys of brands growing in their industry so you can fast track your food business success. I'm your host, Ainsley, and this is the Food Founders Podcast. All right, Paul, let's jump into it. Talk to us about what is your brand all about and who is it for?
Hi, yeah. So our brand is called Eat Nice, and we're all about creating delicious plant-based comfort foods for everybody. So not just people who are eating exclusively plant-based, vegan or vegetarian, but more like today's flexitarians, especially flexitarian families. So we want to replace traditional comfort foods, especially pasta-based comfort foods, with delicious plant-based ingredients, formats, flavors, and update the packaging, update the vibe, the values for today's consumers. Our kind of primary customer is essentially the flexitarian family. So as I do a lot of in-store demos, I've discovered that our key customer is kind of not the person necessarily buying the product at the store. Usually they're buying it for someone else or for their family as a whole, and they're doing that in order to make their family whole. So what I mean by that is that because today's eaters are coming at food from different dietary restrictions or ethical principles, usually families now have one or two either totally plant-based vegan eaters or people who are looking to reduce their amount of meat, cheese, and dairy intake. And so our food kind of fills the gap in the family where everybody can kind of eat the same thing again instead of eating multiple meals together at the same time.
You are like a hero for so many parents and families out there, I'm sure, who are just like tired of creating 4 different meals for a single sit down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the most satisfying interaction I get to have, especially when it's young kids who, like even like preteens who are eating plant-based and the parents are there with them and they're just like, oh my God, will you eat this? And they're like, yes, let's buy it. It's you can see that you've solved a serious problem within the household for them instantaneously. And it feels really good to me when that happens. Because, I know that not only is that kid or that family member going to enjoy it, but everybody else is going to enjoy it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, how did you get started? Are you in the same situation? Do you have like a mixed family of meat eaters and vegans? Like, how on earth did you start this?
Yes, I do. I have 3 siblings. My one brother is a vegan. My other brother is what I guess you'd call a reducitarian or a flexitarian. And my sister is a more conventional eater. And then, of course, my parents are now officially flexitarians because, whenever any of us is around, they have to change the way that they approach meal preparations. But that's not how we started the company. That's one of those things where, it's been paying attention at the point of sale to who the actual customers are and listening to how they're using the product. My wife and I, she's my co-founder, Nell, she and I launched the company shortly after we went vegan in order to replace products and experiences that we missed as vegans. So this was, 5-6 years ago when we sort of conceived of the company, and Nell was working in grocery herself. She worked at Whole Foods and she also was a grocery buyer in a local co-op. And, we were kind of hunting around for substitutes for a lot of our favorites. And raviolis and tortellinis were something that, we used to eat a lot of and then couldn't find an exciting replacement for them. So we were crazy and silly enough to think that we could create them ourselves, and then other people would want that too. And it was only in the course of the journey that, yeah, we were originally kind of selling to a hardcore vegan, plant-based customer base. But as we grew, we discovered that no, the real market for the product is flexitarian families. So it's the sort of the family around the vegan or the plant-based eater that is the real target.
I think that makes so much sense these days, as there's just such a variety of ways that people want to eat, what they want to eat that's for them. But at the end of the day, it's still got to taste really
Right.
good. And so if you can
Always.
get like the non-vegan on board,
Yeah.
you've won. Like it's
Yeah.
no longer okay to just have a product that, oh, it's good for vegan. It's like, no, you've
Exactly.
created something that's just delicious, period.
Yeah, and I mean, my wife and I consider ourselves, foodies, and we did before we were vegan, and we do afterwards. And so, taste-driven products are, what we are accustomed to and believe in. And we don't consider ourselves a health brand or necessarily a diet-driven brand. We're simply a taste-driven, plant-based brand for everybody potentially.
Cool. I love that. I love that. I always think about like my family with this because my father is not a vegan. My brother and his wife are vegan. And I feel like food needs to go through like that dad test, like, is
Yeah,
it going to be good
dude,
versus just,
I
oh,
get
it's
that a
pretty
lot.
good for vegan. Like,
Yeah, I think my husband would eat this, or I think my dad would like this.
yeah,
Like, yeah, just don't tell him. Just put it on a plate and then tell him afterwards, because
exactly.
that's
Or
how
don't, whatever. It doesn't
whatever.
matter,
I mean,
right?
it's like, yeah, once delicious comes first, and then you can hit them with the double win, which is that it's plant based, and so it's healthier. But it's also, it's exciting for them to be doing it. I mean, people are getting a lot of messages now about how they ought to eat more plant based for various reasons, ethical reasons, health reasons, environmental reasons. And so, but you can't lead with that. That doesn't get anybody excited. But they get very excited when you tell them it's as a bonus.
Mm. And do you hear that a lot? We were just talking before we started recording about you do a ton of demos still, uh, because you want to get in people's mouths. Like, do you see that surprise from people that are the non-vegans like all the time here? Or do you still get that kind of reservation? Oh, vegan, I don't know if I want to try it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I stopped using the word vegan for the most part, because it tends to be a polarizing word. It took us a little while to kind of make peace with that. But people are much more open to the idea of a plant-based product, especially if they're not, they don't identify as vegetarian or vegan. And then, yeah, those moments where people are just like, wow, that's, like, they're like, no offense, but I just thought this was gonna taste horrible. Like, that's fine, man. Like, that's okay. I get that a lot. I get that, like, it's so much better than I expected. It's, okay, but yeah, I mean, because there's a certain, I don't want to say educational aspect to it. It's just maybe a kind of a, a challenging of expectations. The sampling is so critical for us, and that's, demoing is important for most brands and most categories anyway, but for us it feels doubly so, and it's doubly rewarding because once people taste it, they do buy it. We have a really good conversion rate for demos.
That's awesome. And love that you recognize that it's needed and that you are getting that good conversion rate. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
So you guys have been in business for how long now?
I mean, really, it's been a little over 2 years since we were fully in the market. There was certainly a ramping up period where we were testing products at home, and then of course we had to go on our co-manufacturing search, find somebody to manufacture it, figure out how to go to market. So that took almost 2 years in itself. But as a product in the market, we've been in the market about 2 years.
Awesome. So, okay, so 2 years in market, about 2 years before that, there's probably been so many highs and lows, but like, I'd love for you to share a really big win that you guys have had in the business that has just made all those like lows that come with running a food company worth it.
Sure.
Yeah. What's it like a really big win y'all are really proud of?
Sure. Yeah. So over the summer, I got a really large purchase order through one of our distributors, UNFI, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And because I didn't get any advance notice on it, so I called UNFI, and they didn't know. And it turns out that Wegmans decided they were picking up the products, or I thought it was the products, and so they were picking it up for about 35 stores, which mostly is their Mid-Atlantic regional presence there. So I did nothing to get that account. Apparently, the UNFI rep saw our product in a catalog, presented it to Wegmans. They loved it. They ordered it. I got a PO. That was the first I heard of it. And even better, it's selling in those stores. So, Wegmans is technically a conventional grocery store, and we're mostly in the natural channel. So it was just really wonderful to get that order and then figure out that it was Wegmans, and then see that conventional shoppers are actually open to trying a plant-based meat ravioli product. So that was a big win for us. Weirdly enough, I asked her, like, okay, why only the one product though? We have two products. Every other store we service orders both, and she's like, what other product? And I was just like, oh. So
Oh.
and now I can't get back in touch with it. It's just like the category review passed, and so now it's like, now I want to get the other one in there. But that was a big win, but also that sort of like qualification, which is so typical of the business and entrepreneurship, where you get a big win, then you're just like, but why not both? It's like, all right, whatever. So that was really nice, and that happened over the summer, and we continue to be available and selling in their stores.
That's great. Like you got in there and you're selling there, which is great. And I also think it makes so much sense that yeah, it's conventional and it's moving there. That's exactly who you're going for. So that's huge.
Yeah.
That's validation for you. I hope you guys celebrated in some way, shape, or form when you got that mystery PO that came through.
No, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It's important to celebrate the good things, and it's sometimes hard to stop and do that. I'm not good at that at all, but Nella is very adamant about stopping and honoring the good stuff, because otherwise you can just get, buried under a pile of crap.
Totally. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to do that. So I'm glad that she's like, all right, let's take a step back and just, even
Yeah.
if it's just like, I don't know, I buy myself like a fancy latte to celebrate. That's a
Yeah.
celebration for things,
That sounds about right.
right?
Yeah.
What what about any major challenges in the business? There's obviously a lot that come with running a food company. It's certainly not an easy industry, but anything that you guys are facing right now in your business that is coming along with reaching that next level of success for you?
Yeah. Uh, Seems to be no end to the challenges. Currently, we're fundraising, so that's been a new experience for us, and it can be extremely bewildering, and there are huge highs and lows, and it's sort of to be written. I mean, we're in the middle of our first fundraising campaign, so I it's there's a lot of things like this. It's like, I'll tell you when it's over, whether it was as bad as it seemed, worth it, not worth it. I don't know yet, but anybody who's done it knows that, when you're in the middle of it, it's just, you're very disoriented, and, you're very exposed, because you've laid bare your company to a bunch of strangers, and you desperately want them, you want their validation, and you want the capital and the support to grow your business. And then you just have no control over the outcome, really. At least
Right.
it feels that way to me.
And can we dive into that a little bit more? Because I know this is a piece that a lot of people within the first couple of years, they're like, should we raise? When is the right time to raise? What made you guys come to the point where you recognized that you needed to raise money?
Yeah. So it was over the summer we launched as a Whole Foods regional brand in the Mid-Atlantic. We got the Wegmans account, and my wife and I were still working both full time. So for the first 2 years running the business, we were working full time and doing demos and pop-ups and things on the weekends. And it was at a point where we just kind of had to commit to trying to raise capital in order to support the growth and ideally work for the business. And so, over the summer, it seemed like it was time. And, we also got into an accelerator, and that was obviously the point of that, was to put you in front of investors. And so, it was just like, there were a lot of signals that felt like it was the right time to raise money. And so, we did. We committed to doing that. And the reality is that if you plan on raising capital, unless you have already a built-in network of high net worth individuals, family members, or industry connections, you should probably be building up a network of contacts immediately. Not with the urgent goal of raising money, but because you have to build a form of social trust and recognition within the industry before people start giving you large amounts of money. Unless you're just off the charts selling, like, it doesn't really matter. But if you're an ordinary company that is doing well and looking to raise, you don't want to have to build your network as you're raising, which is kind of what we had to do. And in retrospect, I would say that if you think you're going to fundraise, then you should start building up the network of potential investors from day one of your company and try to keep it alive, just in terms of staying in touch with people and going to events and networking, just showing your face so that people know who you are, and other people know who you are, and you get that kind of social trust built up within the industry, because it's a very small industry, essentially. And so, that's one thing I learned in the process, was that we were coming to this a bit as outsiders. I mean, we're not a New York or LA or San Francisco company. We're a Philadelphia-based company. And so we had to basically start to network our way into the New York investment scene, into the food and CPG investor scenes, and a little bit on the West Coast too, to even create the conditions for conversations around raising capital.
Got it. So start soon, everyone.
Start
If you think you might want it, start building up that network. That's
Sure.
really great advice. And kind of building on that, for anyone who is just in the early stages of a food business right now, thinking about launching, or within that first year.
I feel you.
Any advice? What
Any advice? I mean, we sort of just, I don't know. We didn't approach this methodically. Like, I mean, we just kind of walked into it. And if you haven't already started, then I would stop and think very carefully about what you're about to do, because it's extremely expensive to start a retail CPG food company. Everybody knows this who's already a founder, but if you're not already, you need a couple $100,000, and you need to be able to go without an income for a couple of years, before you can actually build something that other people are interested in. It's a serious commitment, and it's incredibly challenging and complex in and of itself. I've done a bunch of stuff. I directed independent films. I worked in real estate in New York, and this is by far the most complex and challenging thing I've ever seen. Like, it's just, the industry is just the amount of things that you need to master and quickly is crazy, from manufacturing, distribution, institutional capital, packaging, design, salesmanship, interacting with the public. I mean, but what makes it the most complicated is that you're in a national, if not global context immediately, as soon as you're in a chain. So your competitors aren't just local products. I mean, they're global multinational companies with, major capital and products, and major logistical support. So like the arena is so large, so quickly, it's so competitive, that I wouldn't underestimate how difficult this is. And I would think very carefully about it, unless you have a lot of money to flush down the toilet. And you don't have to work for a couple of years with it. Yeah, I mean, be warned.
That, thank you for sharing that, because I think that I personally think entrepreneurship as a whole is really glorified, and
Oh yeah.
food specifically, like if you make a great product, you do of course like want to share that.
Mm-hmm.
But I see so many broken hearts in the food industry,
Yeah.
and like crushed dreams. So
I mean,
I think it's important to just set that ground of like what you're getting yourself into. It's a big endeavor.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm part of the Philly Food Entrepreneur Meetup, and so I'm friendly, and I see a lot of fellow entrepreneurs, and it's really interesting, the step. There's a step before, like there's people with food companies, that they're running like a successful business. It's a small business, and it's growing geometrically every year, and they have employees, and they create jobs locally, and they make a great product, and maybe they're a regional brand, or they have, a couple regions. And that's a wonderful thing. Like that's also a model. And then there's the sort of high growth CPG company that's institutionally backed. And that's the seductive one, and that's the one where you get caught up and end up, losing a lot of money very quickly because of the pressure to grow and to create. And so, I mean, I think it's important too, to know who you are and what you're after. Like there are multiple paths in creating a food business, right? You could become a very large, small business over a couple decades. And that model has kind of fallen out of fashion a little bit, because the frothiness of startup culture. But I know people who run very good businesses, and they pay themselves well, and they have happy employees, and they're not interested in raising capital, and they're not interested in high growth. And if that's you, then great. But, don't get seduced and, pay a lot of money to service providers and go try to raise capital when you're not really committed to it and you're not set up for it. Like, you can go in a couple different directions, but you just need to know who you are and what you want and what you have too. So anyway, yeah.
Cool. I appreciate that. And I know everyone listening appreciates that honesty there. So thank you.
No worries.
All right. Last question.
Okay.
What does your product pair perfectly with?
Flexitarian families.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, like there's plenty of sauces and veggies that go well with plant-based ravioli, but I feel like the best connection that happens is when this product finds the right family, and it's a family that was eating separate meals together, separate but together, night after night, and now suddenly they have a product that knits the family back together. That to me is awesome, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction and hope.
Love that. Cool. Flexitarian families out there, go get your Eat Nice. This is perfectly paired for you. Paul, thank you so much for being on the Food Founders podcast and sharing all these great insights.
No worries. Thank you for this opportunity, and good luck out there, guys.
The Food Founders podcast is brought to you by the Fab Growth Academy, the online hub for driven food and beverage business owners that want to get on more shelves, get into more homes, and really grow their food business. Inside the Fab Growth Academy, FAB standing for food and beverage, you'll have unlimited access to tools, resources, and training from myself and my food friends. So if you know you have a great product, let's work on building the business side of things so that more people can enjoy it and you can make the impact I know you want to make with your business. The Fab Growth Academy is now open. So hop on over to growmyfoodbrand.com to join me and your fellow food founders inside the Fab Growth Academy. I cannot wait to see you in there and help you grow your business.